Paul Marchant from the Metropolitan University of Statistician. He's a frequent speaker at the Symposium and a frequent drinking companion too. I was drinking the dark matter with him last night. And he's going to continue his lighting and crime theme today with new results. I'm so excited.
Well, there's a bit of that, yes.
Are they exciting? Yeah.
Well, just to bring up to date. I mean, sorry. I hope not to keep you from your lunch. I'm critically appraising these alleged benefits because I'm not sure that they're quite what people believe them to be, unlike the person who spoke first after coffee. He seems to assume that lighting is necessary to reduce crime or even fear of crime. It's strange that crime is singled out for this thing that people have to have their fears allayed for. They don't seem to spend a lot of time fear of unemployment or fear that the bank's going to run off with your money or anything like that. But anyway, so this is, if I may go on, if I do this. So I spoke 3 years ago on why I'm doubtful about some of these claims about lighting reducing crime, and this is available. What I said then as an article on the web, on the website, and one in Radical Statistics, both public available. There are links in on this Symposium website, and I have some printed copies if anybody would like them. Because, as in all scientific matters, the devil is in the detail. I mean, really, what we want to know is can research findings be plausibly explained other than the one conclusion that's brought to the fore by the researcher. And there's a study, Home Office Research Study 251, for example, which comes up and says that lighting reduces crime. And basically it's a very flawed piece of work, in my view, and I can give reasons why that is. And also something else I said before, there's a kind of parallel, I think, between crime, which is a frightening, a kind of dangerous thing, and ill health. And where in days of old particularly, but still with sort of new age medicine and all that kind of stuff, there are quack kind of solutions to serious problems, and people like to think I am the expert. So you will get crime prevention officers saying, you have to have some lights because that reduces crime. But how does the crime prevention officer know? No single person would have enough personal experience to be able to say that. They might be able to recount the odd anecdote, but they won't be able to do it. And the only way of getting at these problems is by proper, good science. Same in medicine, same in crime and anything else. Now, just some things that have happened since, in the UK scene anyway, since the Portsmouth Symposium, that in March of 2007, the UK Highways Agency downgraded its assessment of the value of lighting for reducing personal injury accidents on its roads. UK Highways Agency does the big strategic roads. And there's some quotes up there from the Chief Highways Engineer telling that it's not as high as previously been assessed, and it's telling that now that a road safety engineer will play a key role rather than just a lighting engineer, because lighting engineers tend to be rather lighting enthusiasts and probably think lighting can solve all kinds of the world's problems, but I'm rather doubtful about that. And also they go on to say that the economic case will be much more closely focused to such an extent that where there have been lights in the past, there may not be lights in the future. It might not be cost effective to replace them. So that was a thing. So they revised that. Basically, they were saying like the 30% reduction was the kind of canonical figure that everybody banded around, but they're saying, well, it's probably not even 10%. But and there are other means, as I say, to more cost effective than lighting to get those sorts of reductions. And I had trust this kind of research because one of the problems with research is who does it, what they're trying to find. I think the Highways Agency, I haven't gone into great detail exactly what they did, but they were comparing different sorts of roads and things. But it was one uniform system, and I don't think they have any kind of particular, inherent sort of favouring one solution of road safety over another. But Another thing that's come out, and it's sort of emphasised, I put into this UK government science review, and they looked at the science used in the Home Office and the Ministry of Justice, and not just in kind of lighting and crime, I might say, but all sorts of things in forensics. But I put into it, and also I was pleased to see that their recommendation was that they really want independent and cross-disciplinary evaluation of work, that randomised controlled trials should be the rule rather than the exception, because randomised controlled trials, like in pharmaceutical trials and all other sorts of trials, they are comparing like with like. The only the difference is the treatment that the groups differ on. And other forms of comparison are subject to statistical biases because they're not comparing like with like. And basically that the government social research could provide a trials unit. If they are going to test things out, they want to do it properly and get some expert advice in, basically. But it's not mandatory. And my own submission covered these things, basically saying that a lot of the problems are made by statistical mistakes. There really needs statistical, proper, full-blown statistical involvement throughout. And basically, there shouldn't be this shuffling of responsibility. If somebody challenges the results, they shouldn't say, oh, it wasn't us, we commissioned it off to somebody else, you have to talk to them. And really, again, good scientific principles of transparency and openness, data to be made public available for checking, and the sources that are used so that you can get hold of these things and see what is actually said. Because this, particularly this Home Office Research Study 251, was a synthesis of other reports, some of which I haven't been able to see there, kind of. And, one would highly, in all science, one wants to be able to check the detail, as I say. And the final point is conflicts of interest, because there was a report that one of the key researchers, somebody commissioning, was actually married to somebody in the lighting industry. I have no idea whether it's true or not, but I don't. But all conflicts of interest need to be open and transparent. Now, something else that's a bit worrying that's come out was a Cochrane review. It's another one of these research synthesis kind of reviews by Fiona Bayer and somebody Kerr. And it was published earlier this year, and again, it's about road traffic accidents. And it's a meta-analysis, and it's this research synthesis, essentially a kind of weighted average of research results, and it's highly in favour of lighting. And these, again, are rather non-randomised, rather old studies. It's hard to know how well controlled they are, so how the biases, these statistical biases, for example, regression towards the mean, is a threat. There's all kinds of... often people doing these counting type studies assume it's this Poisson distribution, for those who know a bit about statistics, which occurs in things like radioactive decay. How many counts from a radioactive source will you get in a minute, for example? We'll have this Poisson distribution. But events in the social world are not independent events. They are correlated, so one has to be careful about that. So that's the problem. And they kind of get rid of this around these sort of things and sort of fudge. But anyway, I sent my response off, and I've got a copy with me. They get a right to reply. They haven't done so yet, and it should go on this Cochrane collaboration website. And one of the things, just so let me say this thing, one of the things I point out is the potential for publication bias here, that to people, if an implementation of lighting has shown a reduction in road traffic accidents, there may be a tendency to broadcast the good news, whereas if it actually hasn't done anything or increased road traffic accidents, people are more likely to keep quiet. And this is a problem in all science of publication bias, what actually sees the light of day. And a quote that I like is this meta-analysis, this synthesis of research. By putting lots of research together, you hope to get a more reliable result, which in some cases can be very good, but it says a meta-analyst, one who thinks that if enough manure is piled high enough, it will smell of roses. You put all this kind of rubbish, all this horse manure together, and you get beautiful, as if by magic. Now, So I've sent a response. I mean, the Cochrane collaboration is generally is a good thing, and I would encourage people to take an interest in that, in healthcare. It does, there's a good, the Cochrane Handbook is a good source of how, good, clean science should be done. But I haven't got their reply yet, but it will be publicly available, both things. But what heartened me was a view very similar to mine, was that this David Spiegelhalter, who's a Fellow of the Royal Society and Professor of Public Understanding of Risk, said virtually the same as me, and it's on, again, publicly available on that website, this Understanding Uncertainty website. And so Cochrane reviews are usually taken as the gold standard, putting evidence together to check whether a treatment works. But a new Cochrane review that examines how much the treatment of putting streetlight prevents injuries and saves lives seems to suffer from some major flaws which could mean the claim benefits from street lighting are greatly exaggerated. Exactly what I say, and there's a longer article there. Other news is that in the UK is that to save money, principally, that certain local authorities are switching off some lights in rather more rural areas. And it's usually accompanied by assertions that civilization will end. There's one in bold there from that Voice of Reason, the Daily Mail. Crime fear as councils switch off streetlights. I don't know. I haven't been a full analysis of this yet. These trials yet. I'd love to get my hands on the full data again, see the results and whatever, but I understand that the police are happy, certainly in Essex where it's happened, and I'm sure there would have been had the sort of disaster struck, crime had gone up, for example, then the public relations industry would have had a field day and made hay of it, but the fact that it's quite quiet has suggested it hasn't. In fact, something that brought a smile to my lips was this Essex local newspaper, the Dunmow Broadcast, had to make a retraction, and it starts, the broadcast, the paper, wishes to retract a statement made in last week's article on streetlights in Dunmow. These are ones which had this nighttime curfew when they've been switched off late in the early hours. In the story, we stated a massive rise had been recorded. In fact, figures indicate there has actually been a substantial fall in crime, particularly in the hours where the streetlights have been switched off. So that's rather small beer, just sort of that made me smile anyway. Another thing that's happened fairly recently is these people who produced the Welsh and Farrington, who produced the Home Office Research Study 251, have persisted and now published under this Campbell collaboration, which purports to be. It works in the kind of field of criminal justice education and other social issues to do what the Cochrane collaboration does in the field of healthcare. And it's published by an upbeat press release saying, and it says that lights reduce crime in daytime too. Again, it's public. It's on the web. You can get at it. And people say that streetlights reduce crime in the daytime. You've got to kind of ask yourself, is this really true? They would say about some community pride mechanism that people are so kind of pleased about the investment in their community and they're putting up these streetlights. They are too busy admiring the streetlights to go around sort of robbing each other and things like that. And it just seems so fanciful that if you have an unusual result, to me, there'd be another scientific explanation of why that might be. They're very specific. Again, they're too precise. They say things like a 21% reduction in crime. Well, in fact, if you look at their confidence interval, there's kind of the rough range in which the true level would lie. It probably goes between about 10% and 40%. But I reckon there's huge amounts of publication bias. So it basically consists of exactly the same as what the Horse 251 is there. There's their confidence. That's their widest confidence interval there. Okay, well, at least one systematic review a systematic review is supposed to cover the complete all the data, and they missed one at least. I don't know if there are other ones. The Chicago Alleys trial. And I suspect that those, again, in policy trials, that those that get yield favourable results are more likely to get published than those that don't. Publication bias, a big problem in all kinds, in all research. It's known about in healthcare, where positive results are published. And they give 9 characteristics of each of the studies they meta-analysed, but not who paid for it. And that's a key thing about, like, funder bias. That it's well known that if a pharmaceutical company pays for research, it's more likely to find that their treatment is likely to be more effective. Not in every case, but there is a tendency to basically for results that funders like to get published. So if these are done by lighting industry, it may well be. And there's a whole kind of rigmarole about correcting for this thing that I pointed out some years ago in the British Journal of Criminology, that there's over-dispersion. There's a whole kind of rigmarole around that. They do a very bizarre way of doing things. Right. I won't go through the exact... I mentioned in this report, so it's on the web, so have a look at it, and it's all wrong. Well, it's all questionable anyway. Can I just say, I've only got a very short space of time left, but one of the things you're saying about the new results, I have looked at the results in the UK. We have some local authorities getting these new white streetlights, public finance initiatives to pay for relighting programs. And so far, and if you look at the business case for these things, that this public safety argument is made extensively. It's not just about being able to see where we're going at night, or that the old lights are going to fall over and it might kill somebody. It's about that we need this because it's got to keep crime down and all that sort of stuff. And as I say, I am not convinced because I just have never seen any kind of really robust evidence to convince me that is the case. So what I've done, I've got the Home Office figures for each local authority in the country, essentially, what I call a CDRP here, Crime and Disorder Reduction Partnership, and created the total, their count of total crime in that area at that time. And I've done that for 7 years. I've also got the start dates and finish dates of some of these private finance initiative, what they call the core investment program, like how far they are replacing their lights. Right, so I have 2 essentially time series, one about the lights going in, and one about the crime counts in different areas. And I've done what's called a multi-level analysis. I could speak for hours probably on this, but I don't have that time. And I'm really just looking to see, can you pick up a signal from the new lights actually changing the crime figures in any of these local authorities? And it's a multi-level thing because you've got 7 years for each of these CDRP areas, and then you've got the police forces and all the rest of it. And what I've got here is I modelled the log of the crime count. All this is highly statistical stuff. They're in different sorts of these areas have different kind of families, so-called big cities and more rural areas. And anyway, these are some models of roughly taken out population. And these tracks are here, how crime is generally falling. But let me get on to I have produced the model. It's basically kind of like a regression model that has random effects in it. It's to take about the structure of this data, that it's sort of nested, got years within local authority areas, within police forces, you have to take account of that. But the point is, I can't pick up a signal from anything that the lighting has done, any of these areas. And I no convincing evidence of crime being reduced by lighting. Certainly seems to be inconsistent with this 20% reduction claim. You have to say the data is a bit noisy, and it's a rather broad brush approach. And I'd ideally like to do something on where you've got more focused data, say street level data, doing a similar kind of thing, time series of how the lighting stations are changing with the crime counts going across time. The point is, statistical work, especially when you're doing huge mountains of data, it takes a long time to do it. And ideally, I'd like to come across, to be able to buy out some time in order to do it properly. But it's not that easy. So that's where I'm going. Final points, it's the final slide. Do take an interest in what makes good science. I mean, the devil is in the detail, and find out how it's done. The Cochrane Handbook is good. Ben Goldacre's book on bad science is about separating out nonsense claims. And it's got, Sirian Chalmers has got a quote on the front. Bad science integrates the basic scientific principles to help everyone to become a more effective bullshit detector. And that's, I suppose, what I'm trying to do, is to actually have a look really behind this stuff to see what needs to be, does it really, is it a really robust case that's being made? And no, it isn't. And do challenge assertions that lights have proven safety benefits. I think such a claim is nonsense scientifically. However, when it comes to selling lights, I suspect the claim will still be wrongly made, and it will be made pretty strongly. So anyway, go and see what you can do to try and just get a bit of balance. Okay?
Guinness I could smell, but never mind. Okay, right. For reasons which will become apparent, we don't have any time for questions. Paul will be around, obviously, throughout lunchtime if you want to talk to him. There's more about him and his work in here, chapter 3. You've all got this in your bag. Please do have a good read of it. There are a few spare copies for sale out there on the table. Can I thank Paul yet again for an illuminating talk?